Hello ladies and welcome back to my channel. I'm David, you're David, we're all David, and welcome to Dismantling Hate, the series where I, your host David, walks you through some hateful online rhetoric, some transphobia, homophobia, xenophobia, racism, fatphobia, all of the hateful things that we can find out there in the world, and unfortunately there is no shortage of these things to be found. So my commentary content is here to be educational, to be comedic, and most importantly, help you practice combating some of this hateful rhetoric as you come upon it in the world, because it's not always possible to remain calm and composed when dealing with any kind of discrimination. If you like the sound of my voice, consider subscribing to the channel, like the video if you like the video, and let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I love interacting with most of you down there. So today we're going to be reacting to a video published by the Piers Uncensored. Yeah, you know it. It's always an unbearable watch here on Dismantling Hate. Besties, before we get into this here, please do not go to the profiles of any of the creators that I feature in any of my videos and leave them hate. We do not want to participate in this culture of hate that we are trying so hard to dismantle, not only on this channel, but around the world. We may not have Michelle Obama's arms, but we do have her attitude, and when they go low, we go high. So without further ado, let's get into the video that is titled Complete and Utter Lunatic, Trans Athlete Debate Turns Ugly. Yeah, isn't it always an ugly debate? Okay, I'm gonna slide over and we're gonna see what these lunatics have to offer. All right, take a deep breath with me. Okay, we're ready. Let's do this.
Lionel Messi puts his hand up and says, actually, I'm feeling like a woman today. Do you play him in the American women's national team, Francesca? Yes or no?
Yes, right now. Hell yeah, are you kidding me? They are useful idiots like you that are validating ascientific nonsense. There's no such thing as gender identity.
Esther, you're the only thing making anyone angry or incensed right now, so you're causing me a mental health issues.
Your guests sit here and they cry boo-hoo tears about trans rights, but then they dismiss Caitlyn Jenner.
Girl, don't you have a Beyonce album to get pissed off about?
Teenage runner Aidan Gallagher became the Oregon girls 200-meter state champion last week, posting one of the fastest times in the state's history with a remarkable display of power and stamina. But as Aidan crossed the finish line, something, well, pretty unusual happened. Instead of joyous cheering and adulation, many of the watching spectators loudly booed. Well, the same thing happened when Gallagher received a gold medal on the podium, but the runner-up was loudly cheered when she received her silver. And there's an explanation for all this. Gallagher is a transgender athlete who was born a biological male and therefore has a vastly superior physiology to show for it. And as viral video clips from the race show, Gallagher towered over many of the competing girls, displaying great...
Towered over? I see like 2 inches more of height. Oh, maybe more. It looks like the person on the right there is like mid-jump. So, but like height, it is... Okay, well...
Height, power, and speed that frankly made a mockery of any pretense to fairness or equality. The reaction of the crowd is a small moment in the grand scheme of things, but it might prove to be extremely significant. A couple of years ago, it would have been very different. This would have been hailed as the latest progressive symbolic victory for inclusivity and tolerance. But now mainstream opinion's finally waking up to what is honestly insane. World Athletics has banned trans athletes who've been through male puberty from competing against women. But the state-level bureaucrats are miles behind. The Oregon authorities say they define a woman based on their consistently asserted gender identity.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is like a lot of these right-wing people like to think that people are just changing their gender identity in order to have some sort of advantage in sports. And that's just not the case. Might somebody change their gender and their identity and live in that consistently in order to have that advantage in sports? Sure, that's possible. That's kind of weird. People should be able to enjoy their sport no matter what their gender identity is or whether they are cis or trans.
That's just disingenuous bullshit. Yes, trans people deserve the same rights and respect as everybody else. They should
except for in sports?
Have fairness and equality. Should have the same human rights as me. But you can't consistently assert the massive physical differences that come from being born male or female and compete in sport. Those rights cannot come at the expense of women's rights to fairness and equality in their own sport. Now, for years, anyone prepared to speak up about this, like me, was instantly shamed and vilified as a transphobe. But the reaction of the crowd in Oregon, which is actually skews more liberal than conservative, shows the silent majority might finally be fighting back and letting their feelings be heard loud and clear. Well, joining me to debate this and more, our comedian and podcaster James Barr.
I love the peace sign. Yeah. Oh no. I hope they're kind to him, but I know they're not going to be. It's interesting. I never really thought about this before, that this whole anti-trans in sports conversation is predicated upon the fact of like women are just so weak. compared to men. Like, I don't think that's the reality. I don't. I think training in the presence of sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone have a lot to do with your sports performance over the gender that you were assigned at birth.
Contributor Esther Kraken, Outkick host Tommy Laren, and the host of the Bituation Room podcast, Francesca Fiorentini. So welcome to all of you. Tommy, let me start with you. I watched a video of this as a father of a 12-year-old girl who loves a bit of sport. And honestly, my heart just sank. But when I heard the booing, I was thrilled. Not because the athlete
the whiplash
was being booed. I felt awful for the trans athlete. But because I finally felt that the silent majority were finding their voice. What did you...
The silent majority? Yeah, they're silent, all right.
Yeah, I also think that it's big that this happened in a place like Oregon. Oregon is not conservative, maybe certain parts, but certainly the majority of Oregon is certainly more on the left side. So I think the fact that the crowd is saying, hey, this is unacceptable, that's a big moment. But we just have to stop denying this, Piers. I mean, the silent majority, and I would agree that the majority, actually, the more vocal majority now, is saying that this is absolutely ludicrous. And listen, I think we need to stop talking about biological men competing against biological women in women's sports. This is a trans person, a trans woman competing against actual women. Stop dismissing women by calling us biological women. We are just women. So I want to put that out there first.
Yes, but then we have to look at it from the same thing from the opposite direction. Stop calling trans women, just call them women. Like, women is the idea of womanhood and this idea of femininity is a social experience, and it's a socially constructed norm. She would be one of those people that like finds cisgender as a slur. Like, cis is just a prefix to a word, like language. Like, cis means on the same side of, and trans means on the other side of. So in Canada, we have the Trans-Canada Highway that takes you from one end of Canada to the other end of Canada. So trans means movement to the other side. So trans and cis are prefixes that are used across the English language that don't always have to do with gender. That's just a use of a prefix on a word. It's not a slur, it's just the way the English language is constructed. But if you're going to say, like, women are women, stop calling them cis women, like, okay, deal. But then trans women can also just be called women. It doesn't matter, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Why are we constantly, and when I say we, why is popular culture constantly asserting that trans people, their feelings, their emotions, their inclusion is more important than the majority of women who just want to have fairness, want to compete, want to have achievements, accomplishments, and opportunities? Why do their feelings matter more than the feelings of the women they're competing against?
Because I'm of the opinion that your feelings are discriminatory, and you can't have a personal opinion against somebody's existence. You can't have a personal opinion that discriminates against somebody else in order to exclude them from any set of given standards like sports.
Ridiculous. We keep coddling and kowtowing to this madness. I hope we're seeing the end of it, and I think within the next couple of years we will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed that every woman, frankly, doesn't agree with you, because the unfairness and inequality is so obvious.
Yes, the person on the far right there just like cackled with that. Yeah, it's good. I'm surprised every woman isn't transphobic, is basically what he said.
Francesca, I can see you actually going berserk here with indignation. So presumably you don't agree.
I mean, please don't speak for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, either of you, please don't speak for me. Please don't speak for all women. Just let's get that out of the way right
Exactly. No one thing is true for any group of people.
Because I do disagree. I think about what if your 12-year-old kid was Aiden? Wouldn't that be incredible? Wouldn't you be proud of Aiden?
No.
And how much would it...
No, absolutely not. Unless that child had not even reached puberty, and in the case of my daughter, for example, and someone is trying to convince her that if you just put your hand up and say that you're a boy...
Again, it's this very argument of, like, being trans is from outside in. I'm like, no, it's inside out. Being trans is a deeply personal and individualized experience. It's not something that you are motivated to do from people around you. It's just not... I didn't grow up around any trans people, and here I am now, a non-binary trans person. Like, it's not cooties, it's not monkeypox, you're not out here catching trans or being indoctrinated into it. Is it possible that somebody could be convinced they're trans and they are not? Absolutely, but the cases of that are so much lower than these right-wing people like to assert.
They compete against a different biological sex. I'd say it's all madness.
Piers, this is what's crazy about it. Do you think that that's what's driving trans women to compete as athletes, is that they're like, if I transition to become a woman, I can win a gold medal in a high school track and meet competition.
Well, no, hang on, Francesca. I don't care.
That is so absurd to me. It's the same thing. Hang on, let me speak.
I don't care. The reality is they're doing it, right? And the point is that, to me, the answer is obvious.
They're not doing it to win a medal. They're doing it because that is their identity.
But they're winning medals at the expense of actual women who can't compete with them physically.
Okay,
It's why we separate the sexes.
You know what? Like, I actually Googled this.
Hang on. I'll come to you too.
I'm embarrassed to be a woman when I see women freaking out about trans women
Wow.
winning one out of so many
It's not
competitions.
just one.
Okay,
It's happening in
let's just-
swimming with Leah Thomas.
Hang on.
It's happening in all sorts of sports.
Yes, because it makes us look really pathetic, honestly. It makes us look like losers and whiners. And guess what? I'm not a loser or a whiner. You know what I actually want to talk about when it comes to women's sports? Why is Caitlin Clark being paid 80 times less than her counterpart entering the NBA?
Well, that's
because
quite
she's in the
straightforward, too.
WNBA.
Because nobody watches
Women
it.
don't want to talk about that.
Hold on. Can I ask you a
Women don't
question?
want to-
This is already so messy. Oh my goodness.
Let me
Okay.
ask you a question. If I hit you over the head with a bat,
Jesus. What an opener. Okay, where is this going?
said the plan wasn't to kill you, it's because you had a fly in your head, would you still not go to the police for assault?
I'm sorry, what kind of red herring? What? Are you kidding me?
Does my intention matter? Because that's exactly what you just
I'm just trying to Rube
What-
Goldberg
that's exactly
whatever
what
the
you
hell it is you're
That's
saying.
exactly what
No,
you're
no,
saying.
no,
Just because trans people are not identifying
Yeah,
as
everyone
trans
talk at
to-
once.
to basically erode women's sports, that makes it okay. That's exactly what they're doing. This is
You think that's what they're doing?
absolutely-
You think
Hang on,
they
don't
trans
talk
people
over each
put
other.
on earth
Let me finish.
to
You know what
sneak
the issue
attack
is?
women's
You know what the
sports?
issue
Don't talk over each
is?
other.
You know what the
Let
issue
Esther finish
is?
her point,
You
then
know
you
what the
can
issue
respond.
is? They are useful idiots like you that are validating ascientific nonsense. There's no such thing as gender identity. Being trans identifying is a mental illness.
No, there is definitely. Okay, you know what? The quirky fun sunnies are coming off. Gender identity is absolutely a thing and it's been studied. There's so many books, there's so many just what you gender identity is absolutely a thing, so that's nonsensical. And being trans is not a mental condition, or it's not a mental illness or whatever she just said. This is the face that the person on the right has with the black hair. They both have black hair. Damn it. The one with the mic in front of her. The liberal, the one that we agree with. I mean, hey, maybe you're here and you don't agree with me. I can't imagine you've lasted this long. But hey, if you're here and you're listening, maybe you're even hate watching. I don't hate that for you. So work, diva. I don't know. I lost it. I need coffee.
That exists only in your head should not be validated, and specifically not at the expense of people that are just going about their business trying to win sporting tournaments or trying to use
There's
a loo.
useful idiots
And if
like you that are leading to the
if
death
you
of trans
feel
people.
embarrassed-
Oh, good God. It's interesting to me the parallels between transphobia now and let's say racism. And I think a big part of the argument that a lot of people I think a big part of the opposing argument with that is people say that your race isn't a choice. And it operates under the fundamental belief that being a trans person is a choice. And I don't believe that being trans is a choice. I think acting on your transness and fulfilling your gender identity in real life is a choice. But I think you are born who you are and you stay fundamentally who you are for your entire life. And whether you modify your outward expression to the world to match your internal identity is a choice. That part I believe is a choice. But it's interesting. It's interesting. So there definitely is a difference there. Like somebody with black skin can't make the choice to not have black skin. So there is that difference there. A trans person could mask as a non-trans person in order to maintain their safety, while people of color cannot. So I understand that difference. But it's discrimination based off of who somebody is on something over something that they do not have control over. And I think I think these people don't, I know that these people don't agree with that, but that's what I think, so.
Guaranteed.
All right,
they
let
can
Francesca
even-
respond.
And you can basically go to an island where all women think like you, and you can compete with all the biological men you want, but do not impose your backward views on the rest of us and have the
Wow.
audacity to call us regressive.
Okay, Francesca, you respond, I'll come to
Regressive,
James.
My response is this. Look, I care more about human life and people actually. I care about the right to privacy. I care about people
Really?
surviving and living in this world. Yes, I do.
You don't seem to care about the right to privacy of biological women not wanting to share their spaces with biological men. What about them?
Why is that an issue of privacy? Privacy means privacy. It's human. Why does privacy have anything to do with the gender that you're assigned at birth? You either have privacy from other people or you don't. I don't understand this one. It's like a violation of privacy to have a trans woman in a changing room to them. I don't get that.
What about the number of trans youth who commit
hold on.
suicide
Don't play
every single
what
year?
about biological women not wanting to share a bathroom?
Oh God. And like, even if you listen to the tone of their language and the way that their facial expressions are, like, one of these women look very hateful and one of them don't. I'll leave that up to you to decide who's who.
Biological man.
Shut
Talk about
up,
that.
half a
Don't do what
second.
about, answer that question. What about them? Do they not matter?
Look, lady, you can go into every bathroom and pick a fight with every person who you think is in
With
the
a
wrong
penis?
bathroom.
That's exactly what you think. You can look at somebody and assess whether you think they have a penis or not, but you're probably not going to be right. And even if you are, now you're the creep in the bathroom talking about people's genitals.
If a man goes into a
I'm
bathroom with
talking
my
about
daughter,
a teenager.
what should I do?
A teenager being
Well,
moved.
that's
Guys,
exactly part of this argument too, of like, oh, there's biological men in our bathrooms. So you're saying that masculinity and men is something that is not seen as safe. So why aren't we working on holding all masculine and male identifying people accountable for their behavior more so than they are currently? You're saying that men aren't safe. How about we deal with that first before trans people aren't safe? Because there's far more instances of men perpetuating violence against anybody than there are trans people. It's just a hard stop.
bully, okay? I believe it was Melania Trump who said, be best. And we know what bullying leads to. Stephen Miller,
You know what it
Bullying,
is?
okay, but Francesca, I'm going to come to James, but because to me there's conflating two issues. You can absolutely support trans rights to fairness and equality, as I do and consistently have.
I don't know if he does, because he was just like, I wouldn't be proud of my daughter if she was trans, like 2 minutes ago.
You can also see that there is obviously a massive problem now, increasing now in women's sport, and there's a reason, and we've had this conversation, James, but you gave a preposterous answer last time. There's a reason we separate sexes in the Olympics, in the World Championships, because otherwise women would never win anything.
Look, I think
so that's why we do it. It's not because women aren't great athletes.
Women would never
They're great
win
athletes
anything.
when competing
What a quote
against people
is.
physically born.
Listen,
like
I have so much to say. I want to explode.
Is this a Snatch Game? Like, if you watch Drag Race, you know it's Snatch. Is this an episode of Snatch Game on RuPaul's Drag Race? Like, this is wild. I've never seen any kind of stuff like this. But this is also why I'm participating in these conversations with y'all online, is that I'd be interested to sit down on a panel like this and actually have, well, I was going to say a conversation. This is basically an argument. They're already just all yelling at each other, which isn't exactly conducive to anybody's argument. They're really letting their butts hang out on this one, some more than others, of course. But like, I am interested in being on these panels. I don't know if I'd necessarily be ready, because I am having an emotional response right now, and I don't want to have an emotional response to arguments like this, because I don't think that emotion necessarily helps you. I think being calm, collected, starting with facts and science can really get you a lot farther than operating off of emotion. So if you're here and you're interested in having these conversations too, in these formal ways, then I hope you're learning something. Or if you're just here for entertainment, that's cool too. All right, let's hear from James.
Firstly, Esther, you're the only thing making anyone angry or incensed right now. So you're causing me a mental health issue. So really, it is a mental illness.
I understand what he's saying, but again, that's not going to be taken well by this woman in the middle who already has her lips open to like spew some more hateful things. Don't talk about you. And I know I talk about me on my channel, but this is a different context.
It's actually you. I would like to take a pill
You can all be
to
mentally
remove
unwell
you
together.
from my life.
Yay, the
Going back to
Ravens.
the state here, like most of the female winners in this sport, they are hitting around 22 to 24 seconds, which is exactly what the gold medalist won here. And then also following up with what you said.
What's your point?
My point is, this is normal for a woman. This is normal speed for a woman in a race. But let's get back to what you're saying. You're talking about women's safety in changing rooms. Let me finish, please.
On that
You're talking about women's safety in changing rooms. That's what Esther brought this conversation down to. But what I do know about is that
Oh my god, is this real life? Holy cats, this is content, hey? Well, welcome to the shit show.
3 women in America are abused violently in their lifetime, and in every single day in America, 13,000 women are a victim. Why are we talking about one trans woman being in a changing room?
How dare you, a man,
How very dare you?
thing about women feeling unsafe
I am
in
allowed to talk
bathrooms
about safety.
with biological men? No, you can't, because you're not a woman. You have never had a period. You've never been a woman
What
in
I'm
a woman's
saying-
Yeah, but having a period isn't something that inherently makes you a woman. There are, from her argument, I would say that there are biological women that don't have periods for a multitude of different reasons. That doesn't take away their womanhood. And he can talk about femininity and misogyny because, well, this is just my assumption. I'm looking at him. He is somebody who My assumption, just by looking at him, would be to say that he is somebody who has been discriminated against for his femininity because he looks like a queer person. I don't even know if he is the right pronoun for him because we love woke inclusive language here on this channel, but you already knew that.
So don't even
picking on one. Well,
I'm not picking on that. I'm talking about the fact that women around the world are being affected because we're validating a scientific.
You're shouting at biological men. Your words. Why am I? And you're allowed to talk about biological men. So why am I not allowed?
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
Women.
Hang on. We are conflating various issues here. So let's get back to the actual issue we want to debate. Which is
Let's get back to the actual issue. 11 minutes in. I want to hear from the blonde. Actually, I take that back. I don't.
issue of this young somersault, Aidan Gallagher. I come back to Tommy here. You know, I know this debate always inspires everyone to get very angry, and there's lots of allegations of transphobia and so on. I really think they're missing the central point. There is a reason we separate sexes in sport. And the reason, like I said, when the Olympics are in Paris later this summer, if you allowed women and men to compete in a generalized way, then women would win almost no medals. Literally, other than one or two events. Possibly equestrian, possibly archery.
Of course. The horse girls would sweep. The horse girls would sweep the dolls, obviously.
There are very few things which anything that involves power or stamina or speed.
Just like Hillary Clinton, they have an incredible amount of stamina.
No.
Piers, can I ask you a question really quickly?
Yes.
Because have you ever undergone any kind of like hormone replacement therapy?
Oh, you mean chopped off his penis?
That's not what she said. Oh my god. But this is it, right? If you don't have really if you you mean chopped off his penis? If you don't just look at the sweep of the faces here after she said that. If you don't have an argument that is grounded in reality or in anything other than just nonsensical nonsense, you have to resort to these like big, outlandish, shocking things to say in order to get attention. Holy cats.
Hang on. I'm not talking to you, Esther.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay.
I'm talking to Piers.
I'm not talking to you, Esther. Nobody's talking to Esther. Jeez, somebody check in on Esther. My God.
Yeah.
Because actually, the body does undergo an incredible amount of toil.
What it doesn't do, Francesca, I've heard this argument.
Hang on.
It doesn't change your body mass.
It really does, though. It really does. Your body is either masculinized through testosterone or feminized through estrogen. So your body and brain does change depending on the amount of sex hormones that you have in your body. So somebody that is undergoing hormone replacement therapy does change the function and structure of their brain and their body. It just does.
It doesn't.
It does.
No,
it absolutely can change your body mass.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. You remain as muscular. You know, I know this.
No, that's actually fundamentally just incorrect. You do not remain the same. Your body does change if you are undergoing hormone replacement therapy. How is that? Like, I haven't read that. I don't have any scientific studies to back that up, and I could look at them, but that's not really what we're doing here in this moment. But like, even just from my personal experience, like watching trans friends go through hormone replacement therapy, their bodies change. Absolutely.
To someone like Caitlyn Jenner,
Piers.
who was, as a man,
Oh my God.
was the decathlon gold medal winner for the United States of America, and was then, when she took up golf, having transitioned, was told she could tee off
Asking Caitlyn
from the
Jenner.
women's tees, right? The women's tees are 50 yards further ahead than the men's, and she said she was winning every tournament.
Asking Caitlyn Jenner for any advice or practical information is like asking you, Piers, for how to get a six-pack. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, let him have it. Again, though, you insult somebody, you take away from the central argument of what you're fighting for. Again, I love that. I think that was hilarious. It's so funny, but again, it doesn't contribute to the conversation that you are attempting to have here. Just being like, you're fat, like that's an ad hominem fallacy. I'm nervous for what Piers is going to say back.
Quite an impressive
Very true.
growing six-pack, as my Instagram feed
The
will tell
point
you.
is that your body undergoes a lot of changes.
Let me come to
It's actually
Tommy.
incredibly difficult to
I want to point
compete.
this out.
Tommy.
Piers, I want to point this out because your guests here, I mean, talk about the snake eating its own tail. They're sitting there talking about trans rights and affirming transgender ideology, but then they're saying that Caitlyn Jenner, who is probably the most famous trans person, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Because Caitlyn Jenner is not only a Republican, but Caitlyn Jenner also calls out biological men competing in women's sports. So
Well, it's a bit of an issue, though, is because you can be part of a community and still be discriminatory towards that community, right? gay people can be homophobic, trans people can be transphobic, like black people can be racist. Like that doesn't give you a pass. That doesn't give you a pass.
Yes, sit here and they cry boo-hoo tears about trans rights,
women,
but then they dismiss Caitlyn Jenner. It's amazing. These are also the same people who claim to be feminists, but also don't care about actual women being robbed of opportunities.
Yeah.
That's why liberalism is a disease, and you can just let these people talk, and they argue with themselves, Piers.
The point is, if Aidan Gallagher competed according to their biological sex, they would not be succeeding. They wouldn't be winning state championships. They would actually not even be qualifying for the finals. That is the point everyone's missing.
Piers,
is that actually
why do you care about
women's integrity, women's sport?
But have you done a segment on Caitlin Clark and pay disparity? Have you done where were you when the U.S. women's national team?
You have no idea. Francesca, you have no idea, actually.
Shut up.
You have no idea what I said about women's pay.
What about when the women's national team wins in the United States, right? They've won like 4 times at this point, and what happens? Oh, Megan Rapinoe, who is both a lesbian and also like one time knelt during the national anthem.
I don't know any of these athletes' names. I don't participate in sports. That's probably not a surprise to you. Yeah.
Not a real patriot. They freak out. Donald Trump tweets about her.
No, you're missing Megan Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe is a very, very good football player, but also incredibly irritating. And I noticed that when she retired, it was only then she said that she wanted trans women to be playing in the American women's national team. In other words, when it wasn't possible for that person to take her position. Because here's a scenario for you. Lionel Messi puts his hand up and says, actually, I'm feeling like a woman today. Do you play him in the American women's national team, Francesca? Yes or no?
Lionel Messi had to undergo an incredible...
Yes or no?
He had to undergo an incredible amount of treatment when he was young. He had a bunch of
Would you allow him to put his hand up, say he's a woman, and play in the American women's national team?
Again, these people just like to think that you just wake up one day and decide to be trans, and then the next day you wake up and you're like, today I'm going to identify as Korean, and tomorrow I'm going to identify as a bowl of Fruit Loops. Like it's not some whimsical thing that you just wake up and decide. It's who you are. And like I said before, it's the decision to authentically show up in the world. That's the only decision making that you have to do as a trans person. Do you want to live authentically? It's not, do I want to be trans? You are trans. You will continue to be who you are into infinity, but your choice around how you show up in the world may change.
I'm a big Messi fan, but let me just explain this to you.
Answer my question. Would you allow him, if he said I'm a woman, to play in the American women's national team?
Yes, right now. Hell yeah, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Messi on the U.S. women's national team? Hell yeah.
Would you allow Usain Bolt to do that and be in the sprinting team?
But the thing is, these people aren't trans, and if they went through the hormone replacement therapy, their bodies and brains would change, and then it wouldn't, it's nonsensical to be like, what if this really powerful man decided that he was going to be a woman only to dominate women's sports? And that's not the motivator for trans people. Most athletes are probably athletes before and after their transition, so why should they be kicked out of sports just because they happen to be trans?
That would mean they're a trans woman. They identify as women.
I get it. So just to be clear, you'd let Lionel Messi play in the women's national football team and destroy women's football forever. You'd let Usain Bolt...
It'd be very difficult to get a ticket, which would suck.
I want to do a little checklist here.
Again, this woman, I love her, the comedy where she's like, shut up, and it would be difficult to get a ticket, which would suck. But she's serving comedy, and I think sometimes people view comedy as not as intelligent. So, and not that's not to say that I think that of this woman. I think she's very intelligent, and that I'd be interested. I want to go listen to her podcast. Let's all go watch her podcast after. That would be fun. But yeah, you can't, in situations like this where tensions are high and arguments are happening, using this kind of comedy is probably comforting her in this moment, but it's not making her come off as intelligent, in my opinion, which kind of blows because I want her opinion to be upheld with the largest amount of professionalism. But I don't think professionalism is something that is happening on this panel currently. If anything, the blonde one, who's only spoken once, has the most calm and collected attitude. And that's not saying much.
Bolt compete as a sprinter in the American women's Olympic team?
Yes.
Okay. You would let Floyd Mayweather compete as a boxer in the women's American boxing team?
Yeah,
you are a
you have to be
complete
like the
and utter
heavyweight.
lunatic.
I completely agree with
Lunacy.
I agree with Francesca, and I go
They
further.
would
Actually,
have to
Piers, you always.
transition.
It's
Imagine-
lunacy.
You always
Exactly.
say-
They would have to transition. They can't just show up as they are right now. It's not like they could just wake up the next morning and be like, yeah, I'm a woman now. Get me in there so I can dominate.
Want to be a penguin? I would let you live at London Zoo in a cage like the rest of the
know what?
penguins.
Well, okay, this guy needs some media training here because he's called Piers fat. He's said penguin jokes. Like, again, it's funny, but this isn't an episode. This isn't an episode of Snatch Game. You're on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Like, you have to be talking real stuff here because then you're just giving more ammunition for these three lunatics in order to come back at you with more logical fallacies if you're the one who's starting the logical fallacies. And it's that same argument of like, I'm going to identify as Korean. I think of the reason I keep giving that example is because of Ollie London. Maybe we'll look at Ollie London in one of these episodes. That's good. I got to write that down. Anyway.
Very popular exhibit. Esther, here's the problem. It is so delusional. The idea you would let Usain Bolt say, I'm a woman, and compete against women on a racetrack when no man can compete with him, right? It's utterly ridiculous.
Well, I'm just convinced that they don't actually believe this, but to the logical conclusion of their ludicrous arguments facilitates the need to actually say these things. Also, this is a testament to the poor quality of public education in both the US and the UK, that you both don't understand the basic economics of how sports entertainment works.
Yeah.
If there are not enough bums on seats, you don't get paid enough. That's literally it.
That's
So
it.
sitting there outraged about the fact that some female players don't make as much as some male athletes, guess what? Go and buy the tickets to their games and start boosting up their viewing figures, and then maybe...
Caitlin
Look at the
Clark got
numbers.
more views.
Look at the revenue.
That is so stupid. Like, people don't want to watch women's sports. So that's what, like, what? It's just what?
The Women's World Cup, and compare it to the Men's World Cup, they are light years away.
Can I say one
light years
thing?
Caitlin Clark was the most watched women's college player ever. The ratings were through the roof. She's getting sponsorships.
Compare it to the
left and
average
right.
male college viewership.
Okay, we're
Compare
gonna move
that.
on.
She had more views than them.
So if men make more money, aren't trans women at a disadvantage than if they're an athlete before and after their transition? Because then they're trying to enter a field where they're not going to make as much money. Isn't that a disadvantage then?
Moving on to a different issue, I want to talk about Harrison Butker first. Tommy, I want to come to you on
Harrison Butker. I know that name. He's the religious guy who gave the speech. We reacted to that. I forget what episode it is. The thumbnail says "Get Back in the Kitchen." That's a good episode. Well, it's an impossible watch, so you should probably go watch that one after this one. Ding.
Let's just play a clip. This is a guy who's a Kansas City Chiefs star. He made a commencement speech at Benedictine College, in which he told women they should aspire to be homemakers. Take a look.
I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you're going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world.
Yeah, he goes on to say, yeah, and none of that matters because you're all just going to be pregnant here pretty soon. It's like Pitch Perfect where they're like, oh, it doesn't matter that you went to college because you're all going to be pregnant soon. We fully did a deep dive with this entire speech. So yeah, go watch that if you're interested in this guy. I can't imagine you'd be interested in this guy, but it's a good cringe watch. I'll tell you that right there. It's very religious. And this guy's not just anti-women. He's anti-trans. He's anti-gay. He's anti-healthcare as it relates to women being able to terminate their own pregnancies. It's a mess. Yeah.
To guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
Crazy.
Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men.
Now, Tommy, this created a huge furore, of course. The Kansas City, the NFL, I think, threw him under a bus immediately, said they were outraged, it wasn't their opinions and so on.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good. Come on, NFL. Maybe I'll watch football now. Probably not.
Been a lot of surprising voices of support. Bill Maher, for example, a liberal, came out and basically supported his right to say this. It's obviously religiously motivated, what he said. What did you make of what he came out with?
Listen, I don't agree with everything that he said, but I also think a lot of people are taking it out of context. He's a Catholic speaking to other Catholics, so you have to put that in context. He's not speaking to people at a pride parade. He's speaking to Catholics who hold traditional Catholic views.
You know what? That's fair, but those views are still problematic and discriminatory. But it is true. It is context specific. So yeah, that's actually fair. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with him expressing his opinions. We can disagree.
Well, your opinions aren't valid if they are discriminatory.
them, but I would also like to point out that when he's giving this commencement speech as a Catholic to Catholics, he's not like some of the other athletes who want to kneel at an actual football game or who want to force fellow athletes to wear rainbows when they're going to compete at their sport. He's giving a commencement speech to Catholics. So the left really needs to decide, do they want athletes to take a stand or not? Because we are told that Colin Kaepernick and others, LeBron James, Megan Rapinoe, they should be hailed for their political speech. But then Harrison Bucker, who gives a speech, a commencement speech to fellow Catholics, all of a sudden that's a bridge too far.
Okay,
oh,
James,
I think
James, your response.
I mean, he talked about Catholic pride. Really?
Pride in God.
I think it's actually the most shocking part of that was the fact that he mentioned Taylor Swift and called her his teammate's girlfriend. That is so offensive.
Well,
that is so offensive. He said that, well,
yeah, it is reductionist. It's interesting. Yeah, I've said it so many times, but the blonde here probably has the most media training. I feel like she's on the set of the news or something. So, I'm agreeing with her. I'm agreeing with her on some points, even though I disagree with a lot of her subtext, really. But it goes to show, if you're able to talk in a unobstructed, not emotionless, like you can still emote, but the whole point of your argument shouldn't be based on emotion, and it gets you a lot farther. Because I know that this guy here is about to like blow up and like the huffing and puffing and like, I've been there, I get it. And the only way that you're able to move through those emotions is with practice. So that's why we're here.
She's one of the most successful women on the planet.
Obviously
and
joking.
He was talking about how
why
women
have you got no
should
sense
be
of humour, you
only focusing on having kids.
Oh, because he said, as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt. When I watched that video, I fully did not catch that his teammate's girlfriend was Taylor Swift. I didn't get that. That is kind of weird. Yeah, Taylor Swift is definitely a lot bigger. I'm not a Swiftie. I'm kind of indifferent to Taylor Swift. I'm not really into her music, but I have lots of friends who are. I'm not gay, but I have lots of homosexual friends, and I don't judge them. No, I do judge them maybe a little bit for liking Taylor Swift, but that's not why we're here. No, and like, yeah, it is reductionist. Like, she is probably one of the most successful female musicians in the world. So to reduce her of like, oh, this is how she exists in relation to a man, I think is a little bit misogynistic.
Brigade, you can never laugh. When you all get together, do you ever tell jokes?
Do you know what?
You're supposed to be a comedian.
Piers Morgan, maybe Arsenal should take his advice and just sit at home and get married and not play football, because clearly they do.
Actually, many Arsenal
But
players are
actually, fundamentally, why is he, as Tommy said, why is he not allowed to have those views? There are many women who sit at home, by the way, doing a much harder job than anyone sitting here.
Because
right?
it has a responsibility.
Sitting at home, bringing up children is a hard job.
Very.
So why do we denigrate it by saying that's
like, yes, but the hard part, but the discriminatory part is throwing that blanket onto all women, saying that's what you need to do. That's the discrimination. Yeah.
No,
I'm not denigrating it, but how dare you tell anyone what they should be doing? It's not an opinion if you're telling people what they should be doing.
He's allowed to give them advice.
Were in the room that they'd wasted 4 years.
You tell people what to do all the time.
I don't tell people what to do. But Tommy's point is right. He's allowed an opinion. But what you're missing is that this opinion is being broadcast to millions of people.
Hold on, James, would you have had a problem if he said go out there and be boss babes, girls, and be CEOs and all of that?
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
No.
You only have a problem because you disagreed with his stance.
Exactly.
And I think one of the interesting things he said is that many women would look forward to their promotions and all of that, but they'd look forward to being mothers more. Because actually, many women don't have great careers. Most women don't get to be CEOs. They don't get to be business owners.
And why is that? There's a reason because of that. So are you just going to resign yourself, or are you just going to resign yourself to the fate of you're not going to make it far in your career, or are you going to fight and try and make a difference against this culture of men at the top? This culture of men in leadership positions and making a better future for the women who come after you. And like, it's not the job of any one individual to change the world, but why wouldn't you want to be a part of breaking down those barriers instead of just resigning into failure and going and like having kids and doing that instead? Like, and not that people that have kids are resigning, not that people that like stay home as mothers and take care of their children are resigning themselves to failure. But if you are somebody who is career oriented, that's something that matters to you, why wouldn't you want to go after that and change the world for the women that come after you to make the world a better place if that's something you have an interest in? That's really sad that a lot of people would be interested in having a career, but just like can't do it. So then they have kids and stop working. That's really sad. That doesn't contribute to a positive world. That doesn't make the world a better place of like, if it's difficult, I'm just going to stop. Yeah.
Administrators
so is that
working
reason to give up?
No, but the point is, we've glamorized this whole idea of women in the workforce as in go be boss babe and do, own
I've never
Facebook
once
and all
said
of that.
that,
And the
babe.
vast
Babe.
majority, the overwhelming majority of women are overworked, underpaid, doing unglamorous jobs, and somehow that's seen as something to be glorified as being a gospel.
But you know what it also comes back to? There's also this whole idea of what activism is allowed and not, and how should people be forced to do it. For instance, there's a football player who plays for Monaco in France, and he's from Mali in Africa. He's called Mohamed Kamara, and he and the whole team were told to wear LGBTQ and the rest of it pride badges before a game, and he refused. Right, and the French sports minister has now said he will be facing the strongest sanctions against him and his club for refusing to wear an LGBT pride badge. Now,
but it's the same thing, right? This sports organization that is saying you need to wear the pride flag or whatever the context was there is the same kind of idea of like structural oppression. Not that I think that's oppression, but they're viewing this as oppression, is the same of like women not being treated fairly in the workforce. So are you going to work to change what matters to you, or are you just going to resign and do it? And I know that's kind of counterintuitive to my argument here, but I'm just pointing out that it's a similar situation, but it's being handled differently from both sides. So, yeah.
James, again, I simply say this. Why the hell should he have to? If his conviction is from a country, by the way, which is a place where they do not believe that homosexuality is anything but a sin, I don't agree with that. You don't agree with that, obviously. But that's where he comes from.
Obviously, because you're sitting here 6 feet, 5 foot something, gay as shit.
His conviction tells him that. He's not being homophobic. He's not saying...
Yeah, that's being homophobic, I think. It has the potential to not be homophobic, but...
homophobic things. He just doesn't want to wear an LGBT pride badge while he's playing football. Why the hell should he?
What, LGBT and the rest of it, did you say?
Yeah.
Do you want to know what the rest of the letters are?
Even you don't know.
I do actually.
Go on, then.
LGBTQ FU. Now, back to what he was saying.
Again, no, that doesn't help. That makes you look like a liberal that's losing it. Say LGBTQ2S plus 2S. Yeah, if you don't, it's really not that simple, or it's really not that complicated.
Let's have a conversation about it.
You actually can't remember the rest of the digits, can you?
I can.
Exactly. That's now it leaves room for Piers to come back, and like Piers is handling it very well. I think I'm going to give him the credit there of like Piers could be more of a really rude person when he's saying things like F you, but he's kind of taking it, and he's an okay interviewer. As a person, I think he's really slimy and gross, but he's doing an okay job trying to keep these people on track, as if on track is what's happening. I don't know what the track is, but he's doing it. He's doing something.
Let's have a conversation about it. He also covered up a sign that said no homophobia in French.
Right.
So,
why should he have to wear
on one hand, I'm like, cool, if you don't want to wear the rainbow flag, that's a bit awkward. But if you don't want to wear a flag that says no homophobia...
Why should he have to?
So what, are you pro-homophobia?
That doesn't mean...
If you don't want to support...
He doesn't want to wear it.
No homophobia just means no bullying. It means
Right.
human rights. And if you don't want to say that, then what the hell are you doing
I've got to
on
be
the
honest,
team?
I wouldn't wear an LGBT pride badge.
Do you support
on air.
homophobia?
No.
Right.
But this is Piers. It is a private. It is a football team, right? That's their prerogative. This is not.
Absolutely, they can make everybody wear something if they want to, and they can kick you out just the same way that Republicans can kick you out if you're too liberal.
He doesn't have to wear it.
Implementing this. Yeah, I mean, right. So I don't know why you're getting so upset, and also there's like a weird.
Because they're going to sanction him.
Okay.
Well, they should.
Then he
Okay,
can
you
go-
think it's okay?
Then he can go play somewhere where they don't make him hear that.
No, Tommy, let me bring you into some common sense as usual.
No, but I thought we were talking about Harrison Butker. I didn't get any bite at the Butker apple here.
Well, get
I didn't get any bite of the Butker apple. My God, are they?
Butker apple,
I
go
think
on.
we all know
He is
what
hot.
we're going to say, so we can just summarize that.
Yes.
Girl,
We'll
don't you
probably
have
know
a
what she's gonna say on
Beyonce
that.
album to
I
get
wanna
pissed
talk
off
about
about?
that.
Again, don't you have a Beyonce album to get pissed off about? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't. I love Beyonce. Beyonce, if you're watching this, jeez, I love you.
She's in a cowboy outfit.
Okay.
Ooh, she got an American flag on. She thinks she's a country
Yeah.
singer. I'm sure you've got a few
Never
videos.
said-
Again, you wanted a bite of the Butker apple, and now you're complaining about Beyonce. Well, you're not complaining, but you're bringing it. Like, stop it. You're conflating what you actually want to talk about. You're not talking about the issues. Get to the issues.
About that, but whatever.
Yeah, that's why. Please don't
You
interrupt
seem
me when I'm
rather
about
obsessed with my work, so I appreciate it. Piers, I'd like to get back to the point at hand.
Yes.
So
Wait, I'm sorry,
again,
were you
women
talking?
supporting women, be quiet while I
think so.
talk.
No, you
Okay.
talk to
Sorry,
me.
Mr.
We
Pierce,
listen
Francesca,
to you.
Francesca, can you let another woman
B?
speak, please?
Yeah.
No.
So much for being a
I'm not going to,
feminist.
because you talked about
So much for being a feminist.
Harrison, now I'm going to talk about her. Harrison Butker's mom is a physicist who works in an oncology department. All of this is a bunch of mommy issues that he laid out at a bunch of female graduates who are trying to celebrate this incredible achievement, and he tells them that they have been told a diabolical lie. I mean, that is absolutely disrespectful and degrading.
Okay.
It is disrespectful and degrading. I don't know. I think mommy issues is a lot of assumptions. And again, if you're leading with assumptions, you're leaving room in your arguments for people to poke holes in it. And these three are definitely going to poke holes in that. Actually, they're probably just going to ignore her and move on.
Women's rights, they've just achieved this.
Your
and
point-
the other thing is the rest of his speech was about, oh, what happened to the Catholics and all the good Catholicism and where have we gone awry? Why don't we respect priests anymore? Gee, I wonder
Yeah, we know why we don't respect priests anymore.
why we don't respect priests anymore. Can anyone think of what's happened to the
Snap.
priesthood in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Anyone? No?
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
can.
thought.
Yeah, there have been
Yeah.
a lot of priests have been exposed as paedophiles, and it's completely outrageous. I say that as a Catholic who's as appalled by it as you are. Tommy, I want to bring you in though. We've allowed you to have your Butker bite. Let's bring
Okay, Piers is pretty good. Like, he's awful. Like, I don't support him. But as an interviewer, there's a lot of skill going on here that I am interested in obtaining. So you don't need to, I'm not soaking in the ideology, but I'm soaking in the interviewer skills. Yeah.
this Monaco player, because it reminded me, there's a Northern Irish footballer, and he refuses every year to wear a poppy, which is, one of the red poppies that we wear in our country to salute the work of the armed forces. And it's something we do on Remembrance Sunday.
Like, the armed forces is something that should be held with respect, but being in I guess it's different from where you are, because a lot of people make the choice to be a part of the armed forces. But you participating in being in the army is not the same thing as being queer. That's very different. I understand where he's coming from, but it doesn't seem like the same thing.
Yeah. Now, the reason he doesn't wear it, it turned out, is that it represents all the military operations by the British Armed Forces. And he comes from a certain part of Northern Ireland where the British Parachute Regiment killed a lot of civilians. And it became known as Bloody Sunday. U2 wrote a song about it. It became a hugely contentious thing. He comes from literally the very street where families of those who were killed live. So the idea that he would wear a poppy saluting the British Armed Forces.
But the difference here is that queer people haven't perpetuated massacres against civilians in the same way that the army has perpetuated massacres against civilians. So taking a stand by not wearing the poppy in opposition to armed forces is not even close. Like, that's a false equivalency. That's not the same thing at all. One of those things is on the right side of history. One of those things is on the human side. It's just not the same thing.
Did not go down well with his own street.
This is false equivalence.
No, it's not false equivalence.
Okay.
Let him finish. Tommy. So my point is, I don't feel everyone here feels he should be compelled to wear it. I don't. And I don't think this Monaco player should be compelled to wear it. If he starts spewing homophobic stuff, different issue, take him to task. He's not. He's just saying, I don't want to wear a patch, thanks.
Say it.
Right, I don't think that.
That would have been explain why it's a false equivalency.
Be forced to wear anything outside of their actual uniform, and that they should be expected to do anything beyond playing the game that they're there to play. What I don't understand about this forced pride on everybody, why are we forced to celebrate who you want to sleep with? It makes no sense. If you're playing soccer, football, volleyball, why do I care who you sleep with? If you are proud of yourself, which is what pride means, then why do I have to celebrate your sexuality? Why does your teammate have to celebrate your sexuality? Why does an entire team, an organization have to celebrate your sexuality?
I don't necessarily, they're all going to start screaming. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but the reason that these pride events are held and the reason that pride is a topic of discussion is because queer people have been discriminated against for an incredibly long time. So that's why this is a thing. It's like the same thing of like, why do we have Black History Month? Of like, well, like why do we have Black History Month? I'm not Black, so why should I care about that? Well, it's an incredible amount of people in the world who have dealt with terrible things, and knowledge is education. And if you don't know what's happened in the past, then you're doomed to repeat it in the future. And we don't want racism to happen again. Well, not that it's done and over, but we don't want all of those horrific events that have happened in the past to happen again. So it's part of being educational. It's part of not repeating history. It's part of being a good person.
If Tommy, hang on. If Tommy and I wore badges, hang on, Francesca, I'll come to you. If Tommy and I wore patches today saying "straight and proud of it," imagine how enraged people like James Barr would be.
It said no homophobia. It didn't say, "Oh, I'm proud of you for sleeping with a man."
It was also an LGBT pride badge.
Yes, but the real problem here is he covered up no homophobia. Like that's
he doesn't want a virtue signal.
He was wearing it on the uniform. It was part of the uniform. It was on the uniform.
He didn't want to be seen wearing it.
Well, that is a real problem. Because the team and the reason sport are celebrating
bring in Francesca.
is to try and stamp out homophobia in sport, which is a really important point.
I think that's a really important point that James brought up. Like, it's like we are obviously missing the forest for the trees here, that there is a broader problem of homophobia, but let's leave that aside. Tommy said, and I do agree, that athletes shouldn't have to be required to do anything other than play the sport. So what about the national anthem? Can athletes sit or kneel for the national anthem? Because last I remembered, the right freaks out every time they do that.
But people are going to criticize you for it. Yeah.
Right.
You can do whatever you want. Athletes can do whatever they want. If Colin Kaepernick wants to sit or kneel or do whatever he wants, he's more than willing to do it. But we're talking about a separate issue here. The national anthem is traditionally
That's literally the same thing. It's personal expression. It's being required. It's being required, and if you say you shouldn't be required to do anything you don't want to do, that's the same thing. Look, there was a player on the Mets, right? Forgetting his name right now, but he was from Vieques, Puerto Rico, and he would never stand for the national anthem. Why? Because Vieques is a U.S. military base that bombed that corner of Puerto Rico time and time again. There's incredible toxins in the water, and he wouldn't stand for it. And then eventually part of the contract was, you better stand for this or we're going to boot you off the team. So he did. He started doing it, right? That's what I'm saying. It's every single individual club's decision as well as that player's decision.
All right, let's move on to two very quick things. I want to just get a quick reaction from all of you to two things. One, Tommy, is Trump going to get convicted, and will he win the election?
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
Jesus.
So I believe if there's any shred of democracy and constitutionality left in my country, I don't believe he will be convicted. Even if he is, it's going to be overturned on appeal. This whole thing is a sham. It's a crimeless crime to begin with. And I do believe that if it is between Joe Biden and Donald Trump will win the election in November. I still don't think Joe is going to be the nominee. I think it's going to be Gavin Newsom. But if it is Joe versus Trump, I'm pretty confident Trump is going to win.
Okay.
I did recently read a publication that's saying that they were predicting Trump to not win. So hopefully that's the case because, geez, I don't think I went into the United States the whole time that Trump was in his presidency. And I like going to the United States, and I definitely would not go back because it's scary when he's in power.
Convicted?
I don't think he'll get convicted. I don't think the cases are strong enough.
And will he win?
I'm slightly convinced that he will win. I mean, for me, the math still isn't adding up, but I don't think...
Well, he's ahead in almost every swing state.
Yes, but I think 2 weeks before the election is when you can really gauge how people feel. I think months out is not enough.
All right, James?
I think the question, will Trump be convicted for a crime and will he win the election is a terrifying question.
Yeah, but
those two questions should not ever be next to each other.
That's fair. Yeah, I understand what he's saying.
I understand how that's happened.
Can you answer the question or not?
Well, I can't because I don't understand the American legal system at all. I would hope that he was arrested for a lot of the things that were incredibly wrong, including inciting an actual riot on the Capitol.
Okay, well, thank you for your constructive thoughts.
No worries.
God.
That's good. Will Trump be convicted, and either way, will he win the election?
Ooh, I like this. He will be convicted because the evidence is glaring, and we all know that David Pecker refused to pay his bills anymore, and so Trump was like, damn it, now I've got to do financial crime.
David Pecker. Should I make that my name? I could change that T into a P.
Pay off this woman I slept with. So that's what happened.
Cares?
And
Who cares who he sleeps with?
He will.
I thought you liberals didn't care who people slept with.
I literally don't care. I don't care.
You have pride in your sexuality. Doesn't that extend to porn stars?
Oh my God.
I don't know if that extends to Donald Trump.
People pay off people all the time in America. Why shouldn't Trump be able to pay off a porn star?
Dude,
even if he did
well, just because everybody does it doesn't mean that it's okay.
Wrote the campaign finance law. I didn't write the campaign finance law. Okay, libs. The left didn't get together and was like, ooh, I know what we'll do. We'll write campaign finance laws.
If Hunter Biden did it, you'd be flying a flag saying "Free Hunter."
Yeah, I thought sex work was real work.
Final question. Here's a final question.
I hope he wins. I hope he wins the presidency for your sake, Piers. So you can have some sort of spot on the administration. I don't know what you want to do. Maybe you want to be sort of,
Again, it's all jokes. It doesn't actually help the argument.
Or something. I don't know. Whatever.
Actually, now you're talking. Yeah,
right. Maybe you should be the White House.
The embassy here is really nice. I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, Trump's American ambassador to the UK. Great idea. Very quickly, because I know Tommy, you got to go. this extraordinary story about Graceland, Elvis Presley's home, where he lived for many years, where he's buried along with most of his family, including Lisa Marie, his daughter, who sadly died last year, his parents, his grandmother, Lisa Marie's brother, who sadly shot himself, and so on. It's at the centre of this huge legal row where some investment firm has come forward and said Lisa Marie reneged on a debt of £3 million, $3.5 million, and as a result, they are now selling Graceland. And Riley, who is the granddaughter, the actress, Riley Goff, isn't it? She has come out and said she's got an interim order preventing it happening. They're back in court later today. It's extraordinary and all part of the Elvis circus. But my question is this. Would you ever want to be buried in the grounds of your own house?
How is this the question that he's asking? What?
Seeing what's happened here. Because what happens?
What does this have to do with anything? What does this have to... How is this...
Somebody comes along and says, we're selling your house. Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, I live here in Tennessee, so this is obviously close to my heart, and being in Nashville and Memphis just down the road. Elvis is the king. I would never want to be buried at my home for that reason, but there is good news in this. I believe that the sale has, at least for now, been halted, so we all rejoice here in Tennessee and for Elvis the king.
I mean, I was asking
Why would anyone want to buy it?
Well, James, let's ask your opinion. Assuming you have one.
You know, Elvis met his wife when she was 14. I think that's absolutely disgusting.
What's that got to do with it?
It's got a lot to do with it. I'd burn the place down or turn it into a women's safety.
She made it clear.
Again, like there is a valid point of Elvis being inappropriate, and like it's not that it's not valid to talk about, but it's not what he was asked, and the way he's delivering it is in this way that doesn't make people take him seriously, and that's really frustrating because he is, I believe, on the right side of history, but he's not doing a great job of showing that off, and it just comes with practice. Maybe he's young, maybe he doesn't have experience with things like this, and it's hard to keep composed when you're around hateful stuff like this.
Women's safety refuge.
So you're accusing her of what? Because I interviewed her last year, and she was emphatic. There was no sex between them until she was of lawful age.
Cool.
So what's your problem?
No worries then.
What's the problem?
Awesome. Good job.
What's your problem?
Yeah, well, there's still a problem. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
What's your problem?
No problem.
Well, he wasn't allowed to.
She says it's okay.
He wasn't allowed to meet her.
Do you think it's okay to marry a 14-year-old?
You didn't marry a 14-year-old.
Okay, but if you met a 14-year-old and dated a 14-year-old when you were 10 years older, do you think it's okay?
Until she was...
No, answer the question. She's 14 and you're 30.
Sorry, Tommy? What was that, Tommy?
He doesn't believe you should get married at 14, but you can take puberty blockers and cut off body parts.
Ridiculous. I'm actually putting words in my mouth, Tommy, a lot today, and I don't appreciate that.
She's not wrong.
I haven't ever commented on that. I haven't commented on that. I haven't commented on that. But it's interesting that you don't want to talk about real women here in your words. We're talking about that.
I love a bit of...
let's just change the subject.
I do love a bit of blonde on blonde action, I gotta say.
Ew, I love a bit of blonde on blonde action is what he just said. That is rank.
Esther, finally to you. Would you... I mean, it's an interesting thing. I was talking to my mother about this, because all of our family pets are buried in our garden, right? And if one day we ever wanted to sell the house, what about that? Like,
absolutely not.
The spirits of these pets.
Because you can never sell it. And I was like, why would anyone even want to own that property? I don't want to be buried.
Well, if Elvis is in the garden, a lot of people would want to own it.
No, I don't want to be buried. Because what if
That's honestly awful.
You get the bones. You get the bones.
You get Stop it. What the hell is happening?
You get to reanimate them.
Dog is
you get to
coming
dress them
and
You know
up.
what, Francesca? To quote the famous phrase, and to end this debate, don't be cruel, okay? Boom. Thank you all very much indeed for your time.
My
This is
God.
animated as I expected. Well, it's only because you're too young. You're actually all too young to know that Don't Be Cruel was one of Elvis Presley's biggest hits.
We're not too young.
And that makes me sad that I'm the only person on this panel old enough to actually remember anything he ever sang. I'm sad about that. I feel very old suddenly. But anyway.
Don't be you're nothing but a hound dog.
There, got it. Boom. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
All right, babies. Well, that was simply another impossible watch here on the channel. So if you love the sound of my voice, consider subscribing to the channel. Like the video if you like the video. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you agree with any of these people? Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate all the support that I've had so far. Thank you so much for watching this video and getting to the end. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for spending this last unbearable hour with me. And until the next one, goodbye. You mean chopped off his penis?